When I was a little girl, I used to love fairy tales. Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, it was my favorite. I was always encouraged how they would take something so broken and it would end up so beautiful. Well, as I've gotten older, I've come to realize life is not a fairy tale at all. It's very real. But you know, God can take our brokenness and He can make something so very beautiful. So join me as we explore chapter by chapter stories of faith, determination, and courage of people that you may very well know. You may not think you do, but we all have a story to tell.
I'm Eugene Walker, and this is my story. I was born on a farm about halfway between here and Marion, just over here on the railroad track. I was the youngest of three boys, and I was born in 1926. My grandparents lived with us, and we was raised up during the Depression. Well, we had plenty to eat, but we didn't have any money. And didn't anybody else have any money, so we didn't really miss it. But my dad milked cows and had a few hogs, and my mother raised chickens. So we always had plenty to eat, but we just didn't have any money much at our house. And so I went to grade school at Chapel Hill 4 years, and I liked that. But when I hit high school, I hated it with passion. I hated every minute of it. And I went to 4 years of high school. Our church was a little church out of Chapel Hill, and yes, we went to church. It was my dad was a Sunday school superintendent, and my mother taught a class, and there was no question about whether we'd go to church on Sunday morning or not. It was just a regular thing, and so we was raised in church, and I never get involved in drugs. They didn't have drugs back then, or they didn't. But I did slip around and smoke a little once in a while. And, we didn't drink. We didn't have any alcohol at our house, but we did have respect. My parents were big on respect. They were big believers in respect. And when I was about 12 years old, we had a revival at our church, and I gave my heart to the Lord when I was about 12 years old, and then after I went to the service, I got into some stuff that probably I shouldn't have, and when I got out, they had an old preacher from up in the mountains was holding a big revival out there, and so I rededicated my life to Christ back then. And after high school, World War II was going on pretty strong, and so I went in the Army right after World War II. I went in there, and I was mostly a truck driver, and that was the company I was in didn't have a lot of truck drivers. Their boys was out of New York mostly, and they couldn't even drive a Jeep, and so my job was driving a truck, and that's I never went overseas. I spent most of my time in Camp McCoy, Wisconsin, and we was up there testing the heavy equipment and stuff in the cold weather. And when I got out of the military, my mother she had my bags all packed to go to college. She wanted me to go to college. I could go under the GI Bill, and so that didn't go over very well because I didn't like high school and I wasn't about to go to college. So we just had a not smart of a round over that. But I didn't go to college. Maybe I should have, but but I got a job. I did core drilling, and I've worn several hats. Core drill, and I was an ice man, hauled ice, and most of my time I was core drilling, though, and then I got a job at Chrysler in Evansville. I worked up there about 10 years, and they moved the plant to St. Louis, and so I didn't want to go to St. Louis, and I come back and start core drilling again, and I did that most of the rest of my life, and I drilled for different companies. And finally went in business myself, and that was good. In 1951, I met my wife, Norvaline, and her cousin kind of put me onto her, and so I never had met her, and I went down. She was teaching school, a little room school, and I went down and asked her for a date, and she wouldn't go with me. She said she didn't go out with boys she didn't know. So then we met again in a week or two, and so I finally went out, and she come from a nice family. We had a good relationship with her people, and so we went together about 3 months, I guess, and got engaged, and then we didn't get married for another year or so. First son was born in 1955, and then her daughter was born in 1960, and so I was working in Evansville when I got a pinched nerve, sciatic nerve, and so we had just gotten our first TV, and that was back in the early days of TV, and the reception wasn't very good. But anyway, one Sunday morning I was sitting there, and an old lady had taken, her and Mike had gone to church, and I was sitting there with a sore throat and my leg hurting, and Oral Roberts come on, and so I was listening to him, and he prayed for the sick. Said he'd get up, and said if he had something wrong with you, you could go lay your hand on the TV, and he prayed. And when I did, something hit that hip and just went down that leg just like a warm oil or something, went from out the ankle. And it hasn't hurt me since, and that's been back, that was about 1956, I guess, when that happened. I just thought, I ain't gonna say nothing about this, because I never wasn't used to it, and I thought, no, I'll keep quiet about this. But then in a day or two, I got to thinking, I'd better start saying something about it, or it might get something worse, So I started. So the next Sunday, I went to the church and thought I'd tell my Sunday school class. And when I did, well, they just said, well, and went on, and I just thought everybody was going to be proud for me, and they just didn't say much. But I've told a lot of people since then. That was, I guess, that was the beginning of learning about the faith movement. And back in those days, there wasn't many churches. In fact, there wasn't any that taught that, I don't think. But it just kind of lay in the back of our mind, that there was something more to it than what we was getting. And So we went to church. We sold a house out here on the Chapel Hill Road and moved to a farm down on 723 out of Salem. And we moved down there and went to Pleasant Grove Church, and it was a good church, and nothing wrong with that. But anyway, we left there and started with the Gospel Fellowship down here. And Brother Ed Clement was preaching, and so we went there, and some stuff happened. And I don't know, probably a year or so, and we left, and actually we got invited up to church at Princeton. Brother Jim Baggett was the pastor, and we liked him, and he had a little church there, and he owned a radio station in Edwell, a Christian station. But he found out we had a basement in our house, and he wanted to come down there and start meetings, about one meeting a month on Saturday night, and so that went over good. We did that for several years, and we had several people that would come from all around, and that was a good thing. And so I remember one night I had sprained an ankle, and I was really hurting. That ankle was hurting, and so Shelby, Brother Jim's wife, she was having some health problems. Anyway, we had a group from Larry Starnes Church at Paducah come up and had praise and worship. And this young man was over there praying for Shelby, and I was just sitting there waiting on my turn to be prayed for. And I saw a big ball of smoke, about like a basketball, just left Shelby's chair and just started drifting over there toward mine, and just kind of engulfed that foot. And when it did, I moved my ankle and it just popped, and man, that healed that right straight, And so, I mean, I've been healed with, I guess, smaller things, and a lot of stuff I've forgotten about before, but that was, of course, he's already believed the healing in, Brother Jim's lost his wife, and she, so I guess that church kind of, he left and went to Florida, went back to Florida. And we come back when Brother Harold and Evelyn Patrick was here. And in fact, we come back the first night the first Sunday they was here. We liked Brother Harold and Evelyn, and so when he announced that he was leaving the church, Orleans, he just got down really low over it, and I said, so I just said, Chris McDonald might just come back and take this church over. He said, you reckon he would? And I said, well, he might. And that was a Sunday that I don't know whether the Lord put that on me or what, but that was the Sunday that Brother Harold had announced his resignation. And then I remember another time that I was healed is up here in this old church building with Brother Chris. He was preaching a healing service there one night, and I was having trouble with my knee. And that knee, I started rubbing it, and it'd been giving me some problems. It'd just kind of go out. And so he was praying for me. He was just having a service there. And, excuse me. And all at once I felt something hit that knee. And I mean, all the pain didn't leave then, but the next day it felt better, and the next day it felt better. And about a day or two, and it hasn't bothered me since. So I'm a pretty big believer in healing. Our children, they didn't give us any trouble at all. And so Mike went to college, and about the worst thing I ever heard him doing was throwing hedge apples on Halloween. He never did give us, and then Linda didn't give us any trouble. She married a good young man from Lola, and so we used to have him in our family. And Mike married a nice daughter, a girl from Tennessee. She lived right down across the line from Tennessee. We got 3 grandchildren and 5 great grandchildren, and one of our great grandchildren died at birth, and so we've got 5. Well, we've been married 68 years, and we've been in church all of our time, all of our married life. We started tithing and probably about 2 years after we were married. We gave, but we didn't tithe. But we got in tithing probably about 66 years on it. And so I can't say that I'm a rich man, but my bills are all paid, and we don't owe anything, so we've been blessed. And one thing I like about Brother Chris, he preaches the Word, and he's a big believer in the Word, you know, and the power of the tongue. And a lot of preachers that we have sat under has preached that same thing, and we've, you know, when I was down with that cancer, I got Dodie Osteen's. She's got about 50 scriptures of healing, and I've got a list of those scriptures and read them every day. And like over in Psalms there, it says He sent His word and healed them, and by His stripes I'm healed, and no weapon formed against us prospering. On and on. And that was in 1990. We was going to church down there to Gospel Fellowship, and I noticed a lump in my groin area there, and it was just about like a lemon or something. I just noticed it there, and so I went. Brother Ed prayed for him, and then we went to the doctor, and he told me, he said I ought to go to the doctor. And so I went to the doctor in Paducah, and he checked me over, and we thought that it was going to be, we was just sure it was going to be cancer, and he was too, but we didn't know for sure till I had an appointment with him one Friday evening. Well, Melinda and David, our daughter and son-in-law, they was having a meeting, a revival going on at their church. And they wanted us of course, the whole family came down to see what the doctor was going to say about me, you know. And it come out, he said it's going to be cancer. And anyway, they had a meeting going on at their church, and Brother David Cassidy was the pastor there, and they wanted us to come that night. And they had a prophet from somewhere. His name was Laddie. I don't know it. But anyway, he was holding a meeting, and we all went up there, went that night, and he said that he didn't know anybody there, and that he was just going to prophesy mostly to young people. And he did. And after a while, he said, that white-headed fellow back there said, "You come up here, I want to talk to you." And that was me. And So he told me that I was going to live to be an old man in old age, and that I'd be a blessing to people and one thing and another, And so after he said that, they got through talking. We've got a tape there of all this, what he said. And Brother David had called the elders of church up there, and they had them come and pray for me and anoint with oil. And that was the beginning of. But I went ahead and took chemo for 6 months, and then I took it for 5 months, I guess. And anyway, I got healed, and I mean, I never did have any more symptoms after that. If I get a pain or something, I said, no, this devil, you don't do that. And he sent his word and healed me. And if he's having to beat my shoulder, I'll say, take your hand off my shoulder, devil. And he sent his word and healed him. And then by his stripes I'm healed. I start quoting the scripture. And most of the time it leaves. I mean, I don't, sometimes, I might say it 50 times a day or something, if it's really, I don't tolerate pain very good, and whenever it gets to, I kind of get after him when he starts. There's a lot of things I would do different than I did back then, but still, back then we really didn't know a lot of the things that we know now. I never heard much. In churches I went to, we didn't have. Healing, and we didn't have. I never went to a healing service or anything. And so, what I like about our church is it preaches healing and preaches prosperity and preaches faith. And Brother Chris just preaches the word, and it's just as simple as that. It's just, he's kind of big on healing, big on faith, and that's, I like that. I mean, every morning I get up and I usually fix breakfast, and I wash the dishes, and then I'll, if I've got anything in the garden needs to be done, I do that. Maybe mow the yard or whatever, and then I'll go down to Timco's and loaf a little while, and come back and just do little odd jobs around the house there. I'm not as, I can't do as much work as I used to. I mean, I play out quicker, but I quit hot water about, I think, let's see, about 5, 6 years ago. That would be, I hot water for about 25 years. I core drilled about 25 years, and hot water for about 25 years. And water hauling is not such a strenuous job, but hot water till I think it was about 87, 88, something like that. Every month I come and help with the food handout. I do that because I like to come up and be with people, and two, I've got about 3 or 4 people that I deliver to when I leave church here that probably wouldn't get theirs if I didn't do this. So that's one reason I keep doing it, because I can go ahead and deliver to these people that are maybe live further away or don't have a car or something, I'm Eugene Walker. That was my story. So